Can you hear us, Jesse?
Hey guys, yes, I can hear you.
Awesome, thank you. So thanks for everyone coming. We have a couple guests here. Also, Irene and Joey from Laredo out here. They work with the ENV title in Laredo. So they're out here helping us out. They have some questions too, just to kind of learn some as well as we go through. And then, of course, we have the amazing Marcel and Bonnie here, who also are some of the mentees. So I wanted to have Jesse on here today. He's the senior escrow officer for ENV title in San Antonio. And I want him to kind of share a little bit about, like we talked about earlier today, Jesse, about his client has cash, how you guys look at seller financing as a title company. And then I'm going to kind of share some of the documents we follow and that we kind of use as agents. So if you want to take it off, Jesse, and get into that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you, Andrew, and thank you guys for joining us. And sorry for me hopping on late. Today has been just a bit of a crazy day here, going 100 miles an hour. But yeah, so with us on the title side, uh, we don't really do anything different on our end when it's an owner finance transaction. The only real difference that we have is reaching out to our doc prep attorney to have the seller finance documents prepared. Um, there's really no other difference in an owner finance transaction versus a traditional deal with a traditional mortgage company. Our doc prep attorney will prepare the note and deed of trust for the owner finance transaction. The only thing that they require to prepare the document is going to be the terms of the note, which I believe are all spelled out within the seller finance addendum. So as long as all of that information is filled in within the contract, then for us, it's just a matter of who we are requesting the seller finance documents from. For
Can
the
you
seller,
expound? Can you expound upon the cash when you have a check-in as well?
yeah, so as far as the cash goes now, actual cash dollars, we can't take cash as far as coins or dollar bills. We're not set up to take I guess hard cash, if you will. So if there's a situation where the buyer wants to give dollar bills to the seller and in a form of a deposit or whatnot, that's fine by us. If the seller's going to hold on to that money, we would want to be made aware of that and probably would want to see that within the contract, acknowledged somewhere within the contract, so that when we go to prepare the closing statement, we show a credit to the benefit of the buyer for that deposit that the seller is holding for them.
So could we have like a receipt we could write showing, like, write up our own receipt, or would it have to be a certain form, or can we create our own form showing that they have the receipt of that funds?
Yeah, that's fine. Anything that you guys want to draft up to acknowledge that there's been a deposit given, and if it's something that you want the seller to sign off on, then that works for us. We can drop that into our file as supporting documents.
Perfect. So it's almost the same thing as a regular transaction. You still get title insurance, you still get the document, and the deed and everything like that is put into the new buyer's name, correct?
Correct. Everything, all other aspects are the same. The only difference is that the seller is also acting as the lender in the transaction.
Okay, now I heard of something called a quit claim deed. That's not this, right?
That's not this, no. Quick claim deeds aren't always recognized by title insurance companies. I don't want to say they're no good in the eyes of a title insurance company because I have seen some quick claim deeds that are accepted by our underwriters, just kind of depending on what the situation is. If we're dealing with a property that has probate matters and there's been a change of ownership with amongst the heirs or whatnot, an underwriter would probably accept a quick claim deed. In other words, it's we can accept a quick claim deed under special circumstances, but normally we don't like to prepare quick claim deeds because of the chances of it not being accepted down the road by a future title company. So for a seller finance transaction, we would prepare a just like we would on a traditional closing with a regular mortgage company. we would prepare a warranty deed with vendor's lien. The vendor's lien would be included on that deed to secure the lender slash seller's interest that they still hold in the property until that note is paid off.
That's awesome. Anyone have any other questions directly you want to ask Jesse while we have him before we jump into the contract part and start looking at how we kind of fill it out on our side? Now's your time to ask.
I'm all ears, guys.
Go
Yes,
ahead,
yes,
Joey.
I'm sorry. Are you an escrow officer? Can you send me your
Sorry,
contact
Joey, you're
info?
breaking up. I can't hear you.
He's looking to get your contact info as he's the senior escrow officer for
Joey?
Envision ENV title. Oh,
Can you
sorry,
guys
I
hear me?
accidentally muted myself. Sorry. We didn't want to have feedback. His the connection's not as fast. He was asking that you're an escrow officer. He wanted to get your contact info. If you can text that to me, like if you have a
Okay, yeah,
card or
absolutely.
anything, I'll put it into the
Yep,
group
I can
chat
send
and
that
I'll
to
put it.
you. Yeah, absolutely. I'll send that over to Andrew and he can
Yeah,
share that with you
and I'll make
guys.
sure he gets it, and I'll also put it into the
Actually,
video. Whoever's watching,
I can even probably drop it into the chat here as well.
that'd be great.
I have a
Do both
question.
because I want to put it into the description of the video on YouTube as well. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Okay, perfect.
So I have a question.
Sure.
What does the seller need to do in order to receive those funds? Like, do they accept it through a bank? I've heard that there's a service that can do it for them, or they can have an attorney do it for them.
As far as accepting a deposit from the buyer on an owner finance transaction?
The deposit and the monthly payments. Do they go
So-
directly to a seller, or how does that normally work? Do you know?
So for the deposit, if it's a deposit that the seller is gonna hold, really it's just they would just have to come to an agreement between themselves as to how that transfer of funds is gonna take place. We really don't have any requirements or conditions on how that transfer is to be completed.
So in the
Because in
seller
our eyes, so
addendum,
long as
sorry to cut you off. In the seller addendum body, it talks about you have to either do if it's escrowed or not. So are they going to include the taxes and do PITI or just PI? So if it's just principal and interest, like they're saying, then they don't have to. If you do principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, the seller might want to add that into a monthly amortization, which we'll go over in a minute, all that. And then, like Jesse's saying, that might want to go through a lawyer where they hold it and then they release it. And then your seller would have to pay that fee.
yeah, so in
Okay.
terms of the escrow payment for taxes and insurance, if that's something that the seller requires or that they come to an agreement to as far as including escrows within the monthly payment, um, I I don't know of anyone here that I can refer you to as far as a servicing company that would receive deposits for those funds and handle the future payouts for those bills. So I think most of the seller finance transactions that I've closed, when they do require an additional escrow for tax and insurance, those funds are typically still held by the seller. And the I guess the onus or the responsibility would then fall on the seller to ensure that those tax and insurance bills are being paid.
Yeah, we'll show you in the contract where that is in a second, Bonnie. And like Jesse's saying, it depends which one you choose is how you'd want to connect yourself with one of those lawyers or not.
Okay, thank you.
A good question. Anyone else have anything? All right, Jesse. Well, I'll put if you want to share your info and or just send it to me and I'll put it into the chat and then I'll share it on the YouTube channel and everything so everyone has it who's watching the video so they can reach out to you with any other questions. I remember Jesse is the senior escrow officer in San Antonio, Texas with ENV title, and we'll put that in there. So if you have any title questions, please reach out. He can help anywhere in the state of Texas.
That is correct. Yep. Thank you, Andrew. We do close all over Texas, so feel free to reach out any questions that you guys may have even after the call. Don't hesitate to reach out. And I'll be sharing my contact info with you guys here on the chat, and also Andrew, I'll send you a separate text as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate you, man. You're welcome to listen in and stay
You're
on and
welcome.
answer any other questions. I'm going to go through the contract share screen a little bit and kind of show where we place and
Okay.
walk through it a little bit. But you're welcome to listen, of course, or and
Okay.
answer any questions that show. All right, I'm going to share my screen
Yeah,
now,
for sure.
guys.
Yeah, I don't mind staying on. Meanwhile, I'll send you my contact info here in the chat, and yeah, I'll stick around to address any
Appreciate it,
questions
man.
that might pop up.
All right, so I'm going to go first, look at the 1 to 4 here. I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully everyone can see it. So in the 1 to 4 here at the first page, right here where it says sales price, I'm showing you kind of right here where right now I have checked third-party financing. If it was a regular home, now if I was going to do a loan assumption, I would check this section under 3B. Now we're talking about seller financing. So when you do the contract, you're going to click 3B and do seller financing. And now, as you notice, you can, as Jesse was saying, everything else is still the same. You can still have earnest money. You can still do a deposit, like you would put the deposit in line 1, the amount being financed in line 2, and it would equal line 3 as usual. And then you can still go through here, and these are the Texas, anyone else watching this, this is the Texas forms, the 2016-01, TXR 1601. You could still put your title company and then your escrow, and you'd put your earnest and option, so you can still do a termination period, get an inspection, all that. All that stays the same. It's seller financing. The same thing Jesse mentioned, you're going to do the seller financing addendum. And this is the other big part that we're going to do here. So I like to do this part here where it says to establish the credit worthiness. You want to have the buyer deliver to the seller within so many days of the contract. I like to check credit reports, verification of income, verification of funds or whatever, current financial employment, anything else that your seller wants to verify with the buyer. So this lets the seller be able to get a good, happy, warm feeling, saying, yes, everything is good, I'm happy to go. Now, they could have crappy credit, it doesn't matter, because the credit approval, they don't need a certain credit score. By doing this credit documentation, this is making the seller feel happy that, like it says, the seller determines in seller's sole discretion that buyer is unacceptable. Seller may determine this contract within 7 days. So this is when they get all this information, the seller for the seller financing can cancel within 7 days if they don't feel happy about it. And they want to hopefully feel happy and everyone's good. Now they also have a promissory note, as we're mentioned here, the amount including 3P, et cetera, you go through the promissory note. And this would be the amount they're promising that the seller will bear interest at the rate of whatever. Then you have the interest rate, and all these things are in here. Now this one has the note contains a late fee of 5%. If not paid, it already has that paid. And like it says, any unpaid amounts are 18% annual. So this one already sets a 5% late fee and an 18% interest rate on anything after 10 days that's still owed. So that gets a little bit more stronger. So you want to make sure you make your payments. So right now it's going to say the way you can do it, as you can see with the promissory note, you can make one, say the home's 200,000, I put 50,000 down, I'm financing 200. I can do one payment of 200,000 in a month, or I can make monthly installments, including interest or plus interest, whatever you want to do. And then you can starting at this day of the month, and you can do all that in there. Or you can say interest in monthly payments only. And then you can do through here like installments of, including interest, not one, bidding on this date and continuing until so many months. This is the more traditional one because it's going to go for, say it goes for 30 years. 12 times 30, boom, you have your months. You're going to put them in there. And then it's going to walk all the way through. So whichever one your client wants to do, you're going to fill these out. And then the deed of trust right here. So you're going to say either that the property, most people are going to say right here, consent required, which means the new buyer buying the property has to get approval before they can sell it, convey it, or lease the property. So it depends what they want to use it for. So if they want to put, I don't know, if they want to put a bunch of Airbnbs on it, they might want to get D1A because they're going to lease it and everything and have buildings there leased kind of, for lease by owner or whatever, but it's going to be a short-term lease. So they're not going to have to ask permission. So you're going to have to think, what's the client using the property for? And then you're going to fin out those two property things right there. And then as you were asking, Bonnie, for the tax and escrow, this is if you want to put together an escrow, like an escrow installment, like a regular loan, you would put it in this spot right here under tax and insurance and escrow. and then you can fill that out. And then that way with the installment, the buyer either going to have the buyer is going to be responsible every year paying taxes and making sure everything is good. There's no escrow, or they're going to put it in here and like the homeowner insurance, of course, all that's going to have to be paid once a year, or you can put in escrow and break it down. And see right here, the escrow account can be put either to a third-party finance, like a third-party servicers. There's professional ones out there. This is all they do, some of the lawyers, and they just service these for seller financing. And then the buyer or seller pays the cost of that. Usually the seller wants the buyer to pay the cost of that because they're giving them a deal anyway. And then they kind of go from there. And then the buyer and seller will do it. So this is that main form that Jesse was saying, going through, asking all that. Go ahead, Joey.
So if the buyer wants to have an escrow account, title company will help set it up?
I don't think the title will do it, right, Jesse?
No, unfortunately not. That would be something that they need to set up with the seller.
Yeah, there's lawyers out there,
Do
and that's
y'all
all they
have
do.
resources? Do y'all have resources or contacts that we could use if our seller wanted to do that?
Not that I know of, but I can ask around. I've not closed an owner finance transaction. I have closed owner finance transactions that do require the escrow, and all of the ones that I've closed, that those monies have been sent and held by the seller.
Okay.
I've not had one where there's a third party in the mix to hold that money and pay out those future bills.
So your seller
Okay.
can act as the escrow person required, and then the
Yeah,
extra
yeah.
money is sent to them, and they just hold it.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense for everybody.
Yes.
Okay. So then what I want to show now is called their amortization schedule. So I'm going to show real quick and share the amortization schedule. Let me grab that real quick. My share button back. Here it is. Okay, so this is just a basic, simple amortization schedule that you can get. I just pulled in an Excel, went to Excel, went on their online templates and grabbed it. It's free. So let's say all you do is fill out the amount. Say the loan is $250,000, and let's say the interest rate is 10%, and the loan is, how many years? 30 years, and then number of payments per year is 12. I'm going to say today is the start date of the loan. So it automatically does this for you. So I already know at that payment, based on 10%, my scheduled payments are $21.93 every month. And then I'm going to make 360 payments. And then, if I did any early payments, I can put it in there. And then I'm going to put 0 for my early payments. So if I don't put any early payments, I'm actually not going to have any extra payments. But the good thing here, like here, extra payments, I have $100 extra every month. You don't have to do that. I can take that out, or I can leave it in. Like right now, it has extra payments. See, if I put 0 in there, it changes that number automatically. So if I want to, I can put 0 all the way down. I can change it, and then it will change our number. And the more you change this, as you see, I changed my extra payments, it automatically goes through and added money to my total interest paid. Because the more I pay extra, the lower the interest I'm paying. And then your client will know if you can. Yep. Go ahead. Yep.
Oh, extra payments. In what event would we be using that? Is it just like a random month they decide to pay more?
Yep. Just if your seller, this is information for your seller. So like right here, they have $100 extra. I'm going to put 0 in there and just get rid of that. So now it changes a little bit, the balance and everything going through. So I'm still doing, my total payment is still the same. But if I say I wanted to pay an extra $100 a month, that will definitely kick down the interest and everything that I'm paying. So it's for Bonnie, say your client's like, I want to pay it off in 20 years instead of 30. If they pay an extra $150 a month or $200 a month, they can see the difference of how quickly it's going to be paid off.
Question.
Oh,
So
I
it
see.
says
Okay.
schedule number of payments and then it's
So I'm trying to
maximum number
see.
of payments.
So if you look at the number of payments, I'm trying to pull where it says 88. Because that's so it looks like there's 88 payments on this one.
Oh, okay.
So as you fill this in and do it, because it's a 30-year for 12 payments, and then it's going to go through. I don't know why it's only showing 88, but that's what it's showing there.
Can you add more with that graph or?
You should be able to add more. I think it's only showing right here. And if I pull it down, I don't know if it's going to let me add any more. See, then I can add more in there. And then it's automatically, I just drag it down and pull it till I have the amount I want.
Oh,
Because right now, as you can see, this bar here, it shows my interest, my ending balance. See, as you see, it's going down. I'm at 234. So then if I want to go more, I'd probably want to pull this graph down, and then I can pull as many payments as I want. And then there it goes. Now it's already, I'm now at 146. And then I can know exactly where I'm at and how many payments. And as you go down, it's going to change it to the amount of payments. Number of payments per year, 12. Yep, that should be good. Okay, does that make sense? All you do is fill the main thing is so your client that's doing the owner financing kind of has an idea. Now they have much more fancy ones that the lenders can do for you and help put together. They have them on their table on their website. You can put it together and it's a little bit easier. This is just a quick one that I put together from Excel. But you can just use this one. I can send the link to this one if people want it.
yes, please.
Yeah, I'll send them on the link. And then you just put it just so your client knows roughly. Because then if they're like, wow, it's 250, I'm going to put 50,000 down. And then we change the payment that way. Now the payment just dropped a huge amount from, 2,900 to 1,700 by just changing that difference. And then see, now my scheduled payment changes and I'm a lot different in my payments now. And I can save a lot of money that way. And then you can go to the bottom and just kind of see where you are, what you owe. See, I'm almost at the end right now of what my payments have gone lower there. Because my ending balance here is 117,000 and my payments have gone down a little bit because I've been paying, or I'm sorry, my interest being paid. Now the principal is getting more and my payments are the same. And here's your principal and interest payments, as you can see here at the top. And that's my ending balance at 262 payments. So this just kind of gives you an idea of kind of what to work. If I do 12 times 30, so 360 would be the payments that I'd want to, would be zero after my contract. So if I was going to run the whole thing, I would go like this, grab that little thing, and I would go down to 360, which is 30 years. I'm almost there.
So let's say that a year 15, I want to pay it off.
Yep.
I'll be able to see the.
Exactly. So like he was just saying, Joey was saying here, let's say that I'm at, I don't know, payment 132. And I'm like, you know what? I'm ready to pay this sucker off. I want to pay it off. All I have to do is go up here and find my ending balance, which is right here. Let me highlight that column. And then depending where I want to pay it off, say payment 150, I want to pay it off, which would be the 2037. I owe 173,751. And I know exactly what I owe and how much interest I paid. Now, as you start making extra payments per month, you can add in there, like this month, I'm going to make 250 extra, only this month. And that you can see the changes it makes to your whole contract and everything. So it's automatically all in there for us. We don't have to worry about it. It does all the heavy work for us. Because you should be at 360 payments. And you see it says 348 because I keep adding a little extra. So they're going to get it paid off a little bit earlier than it would be because they're paying anything extra when you start playing with it. And you can see for this home at 200,000, I've paid 430,000 in interest.
Interest alone, right?
Interest
Plus
alone.
the principal.
Plus the principal. Because you can see at the beginning, most of my payment is interest. Principal only $88, interest $1,600. And then I get all this interest. The whole first part of my loan is interest. Okay, so this is something you can
I
just
have a
give to your
question.
clients. Go ahead, Bonnie.
So I know we do the 1 to 4 contract like normal, right?
Yep.
We enter a commission in there, but is there an addendum that makes sure that the seller's going to pay the commission?
That's
Or
your
is
buyer
writing it
tenant.
into the contract?
Well, you'd
now?
have to do the buyer tenant rep. Remember, your buyer is the one who is in charge of paying your commission, not the seller.
Yeah. Okay.
And that'll be at closing
Okay.
cost,
I thought
right?
there was an addendum.
So if you're the listing agent and they want to do seller financing or owner financing, you would just do a regular listing agreement with them, and then they would have to do seller financing that agree to pay you if you bring a client. It doesn't matter if the client's owner financing or not.
Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of for sale by owner. Never mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a little
you're right.
different. For sub owner.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
I always get them confused
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
Jesse,
Okay,
anything
thanks.
you want to add? I hope I didn't make it too confusing. Now, for title, would you even need? And let me share the other back to my other one. I'll share again. I just had a question as I was going through it. Would you even need a third party financing form here? Because this really is just saying there's other financing, but none of this. This is what really counts is the seller financing addendum. Because we probably don't even need the
Correct. Yeah,
third
no,
party fin.
not necessarily. It would be more so the seller financing addendum and just
So the one
making
to
sure that
four
those fields
in the
are
seller financing.
right.
Okay, because that's what I was looking at. It makes more sense. I don't think we need any of this here because that's more for hard money or something like that. Yeah, so then you'd want the 1 to 4 seller financing addendum because that's what we're checking right here. Because we're not checking third party anymore. We're checking seller financing. And then you'd have everything else filled out. And then you'd have the seller financing addendum. And then you'd have the whatchamacallit, the amortization schedule. Okay, anyone else have any other questions? So, I mean, the main thing is if you have a client that comes the way to answer questions, like I always have people say, well, my client came from overseas, whatever, and they got 100 grand in cash with them somehow. And I'm like, well, we can't put in the bank. You can buy a house tomorrow and they're only here for 2 weeks. They can find a seller financing property. And as long as the seller's okay with taking cash, they can have, like Jesse said, then you can have a receipt showing that cash is receipted. And then they can do the title work. It probably wouldn't take long for a seller financing for title, right, Jesse?
No, it'd be the same turnaround time. Usually we get examination to complete the commitment within 3 to 5 business days.
So within 2 weeks, you could have a closing. That's too
Yes,
easy.
within 2 weeks, assuming there isn't anything on title that needs to be cleared up.
Yeah.
If the property's in an HOA, there might be we might need a little time to get the HOA docs ordered and received. And if there's a payoff on the property, then we would need to
Okay.
request a payoff letter from that current lender.
Now, can the client I know they can waive the HOA saying we don't care. They're supposed to have it and protect them, but
Yeah, so we don't require a full-blown HOA resale package. At minimum, we need a statement of account from the HOA
okay.
that tells us what monies are due when the property is sold, as far as transfer fees and whatnot.
Excellent.
Mhm.
That's good stuff. Anyone else have any other questions?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Joey.
So let's say the seller still owes the property to a regular mortgage.
Okay.
How does he go about that? Is he still be responsible for making that monthly payment, correct?
So he's saying that the seller still has a mortgage making monthly payments and he wants to sell seller financing, but he's still responsible. The seller is still responsible to make the payments.
Would that be
Yes.
a wraparound loan?
I
Well,
don't-
if they don't intend to pay off that note, then yes, that would be considered sort of a wraparound transaction. But if the contract does not indicate that it's the transaction is a wrap, then we would expect for that current loan that the seller has to be paid off at closing.
So they could pay off their current loan, whatever money they put for the down payment. And then the rest of it would be just their own, they would be acting as the bank for the money being put in.
Okay, but if they wanted to do it as a wraparound, they would need authorization from the lender first to even be able to do that, correct?
I don't know. Jesse, do you
Um,
think they would need that?
Well, yeah, normally, yes. So we would want to see that the lender has given consent for that. Without consent, then we may need to move that lien to Schedule B. Schedule B is falls under exceptions to the title commitment. So without that, well, regardless, with the
You got quiet, Jesse.
No.
We lost your voice.
like accelerate what's left if you try to do a wraparound without them approving that?
There's always that risk, yes. I would recommend if they are considering to do a wraparound to have the seller review the terms of that deed of trust. Because like you said, they could call the note due and payable and accelerate that payoff amount. If you know if even if there's a change of ownership without the lender's consent, the lender may require that the note be paid in full. Yes, there is that risk there. So I would definitely recommend that they review the deed of trust to see if there's any sort of restrictions against doing a wrap or conveying ownership in the property without their consent.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. You guys good? Okay, any other questions? All right, well, I got Jesse's information. I'll share it. I'll share it in the chat. Well, it's in the chat already, but I'll share it also in when we do I'm going to grab it right now, copy it so I don't lose it. When we do the video, we'll share it out there. If you guys have any more questions, reach out to him. And then I'll have this on my YouTube channel, Real Estate Training Andrew Morin, so you guys can review it again. And we'll have it up that by the end of the day so we can watch it again and answer any questions. Thank you, Jesse. That was really good. I appreciate it. I've had a lot of
Anytime,
questions
guys.
about that.
Thank you for having me. And like Andrew said, he'll be sharing my contact info. Just feel free to reach out with any questions that you guys might have in the future.
Thanks, man. Anyone else have anything they need to ask or go before we lose them? Any title questions before he's gone?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
All right.
My
Take
pleasure.
care, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. We'll
All
talk
right,
to you
have a
all
good one.
soon.
Take care.
Thanks, Jesse. Appreciate you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.